one aspect of Lifewise philosophy is the position on the idea of sending humans to Mars at this point of the Anthropocene, when Earth's living systems are being torn apart by climate and ecological collapse. And we're expending vast amounts of money and engineering talent and huge amounts of ecological footprint through all of the minerals that have to be mined, and the blast radius around the rocket launch platforms next to the turtle breeding grounds, and the grounds where the migratory birds land around Starbase, trying to get humans to Mars, right? It's insane. And one of the ways that it's described in some of the Lifewise literature is if you were to look back at the Permian extinction 253 million years ago, the Great Dying, they call it, the deepest of the mass extinction events that killed off 80% of the living things on the surface and around 90% of that in the ocean, something like that. At the height of the Permian extinction, Earth was a paradise compared to Mars. If nothing else, Earth had an atmosphere back then, had 1G gravity, which is where life has evolved in this solar system over the last 3.8 billion years or so. The atmosphere confers protection against micrometeorites. It's got a magnetic field to protect against cosmic radiation, ozone layer to protect against ultraviolet radiation, and it's not covered in toxic perchlorate dust. So the idea that Mars is somehow a sanctuary from a planet which is in trouble is just insanity. And every now and then I come across a narrative, which goes along with this. And I came across this one recently, Nate Hagen's, in a conversation with the science fiction writer Kim Stanley Robinson. So have a listen to this, listen along and learn.
I would agree with you. The dream of space, I've written about this often, and I talk about the solar system as our planetary neighborhood, and actually amenable to human visitation in person, which would be more or less interesting, depending, not that interesting, like going to Antarctica, useful, interesting, but not transformative. The dream of going to the stars is a fantasy, a false dream. It's impossible. I wrote about this in Aurora, made myself very unpopular with the people who write space fiction, because I said, look, it's a great story space, like Middle Earth is a great story space, but it's not real. We're not going there. It's too far away. Humans co-evolved with Earth. We are stuck with Earth. That is not a bad thing. That is just part of being part of a planet. Planetary consciousness is very important. And you no more should complain about that than you would complain that you don't live on the inside of the sun, or you're not an angel, or you're not an ant or something. You're a human on planet Earth, and you're a planetary creature. There's an interesting side case to be made that Mars, if we were to be in a good balance with Earth, biosphere, and a stable civilization, Mars could become an interesting scientific station, blah, blah. That's a separate and side issue, a kind of a random case. You can't see the same thing about Venus, for instance, or the surface of Jupiter. But Mars, you could land on it, you could live on it, you could set up a little space station there.
A few
Big
people
deal.
could live on it.
A few people, like Antarctica today. The best analogy for Mars is Antarctica, which we're there and nobody cares.
And to me, it's, Stephen, very smart and famous people, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, among them, kind of say, we're screwing up Earth. Climate's going to be bad. We need to colonize outer space and head to Mars. And that makes just zero sense to me, because on the worst thermonuclear runaway climate scenario, Earth is still going to be a paradise next to Mars.
I agree with you completely. That is a case that has to be made. And the thing about people like Hawkins, the thing about people like Elon Musk is they're smart. They aren't that smart. They aren't wise. They aren't philosophers. They are not ecologists. Very often, physicists will assume that ecology is just physics in action and that they've got it all sussed out because they know the rules of physics and they can do rocketry. But you can't do plant biology just knowing rocketry. It's more complex, it's more interconnected, it's a more complex science. And many physicists will arrogantly say that because I know the laws of physics, I know everything. But they don't know how a marsh works. They haven't studied biology enough to understand their own ignorance. So how smart are you if you don't know how ignorant you are?